Good morning, everyone. My name is Trisha Ritchie, and I am ACT for Alexandria's Development Officer. I want to welcome you to our first ever stakeholder briefing. Today, we are going to share how ACT has been responding to community challenges and share our vision of how we can collectively build a stronger, more equitable Alexandria. We will be hearing from ACT President and CEO Heather Peeler, ACT Board Chair David Franz, as well as two guest speakers, Lynn Thomas of Community Lodgings and Alexandria Mayor Justin Wilson, who both will be providing a firsthand account of how ACT has partnered with the nonprofit community and the city. There are a couple of ways that we encourage you to participate today. If you have a comment, please post that in the Zoom chat. If you have a question, we encourage you to use the Q&A section, and we will work to answer all questions. And if you would please make sure that your speaker view is selected. That can be found in the top right corner. Also, we'll be doing two polls, which we encourage you to participate in. Now I'm going to introduce ACT Board Chair David Franz, who will kick off our program. Thank you so much. David.
Good morning, everybody. As Trish indicated, I'm David Franz, and I'm still on, trying to turn on my video there. All right, thank you. And welcome to our stakeholders presentation. I've been asked to speak in my capacity as a donor to ACT for Alexandria and to provide our donor story. That's a story about myself and my wife, Diane, and how we became involved in ACT. And it's kind of a quirk of fate as these things go. It goes back to 2011 when Diane and I were in the process of actually forming a family foundation. Fortunately for me and Diane, our good friend and accountant advised us that forming a donor advised fund was much a more practical way to go for us. So we explored donor advised funds, and another friend introduced us to John Porter, who was the executive director of ACT at that time. Diane and I opened up our donor advised fund in 2011, and we soon learned why ACT is regarded as the home for philanthropy in Alexandria. We had some concept of ACT and what it did, but soon we learned that ACT enabled us as donors to be more impactful with our donations, to be focused, to be directed, not to be a scattershot philanthropist with money here and money there. Fortunately for us, ACT's initiatives at that time coincided with some of our personal interests in philanthropy, which were directed towards education and early childhood education. And two of our daughters are educators. One is a professor in a graduate school of early education at a university. So ACT's work at that time in developing the Early Care and Education Working Group, the Center for Alexandria's Children, really coincided with Diane and my interests. So we learned to be more focused and informed in our philanthropy. Also, we were invited then to participate in ACT's Capacity Building Grant Committee, which makes grants to Alexandria nonprofits. And through that work, we became even more informed about ACT's or the Alexandria nonprofits and the work they were doing. We learned about the Child and Family Network Centers, Running Brook, Alexandria Seaport Foundation, and others, all of which are working with Alexandria's youth and really making a difference. I became more engaged with ACT, and a couple years later, I was asked to be on the board. I've been on the board for 7 years and I've had the privilege to be board chair for the last year and a half. I can say that Diane and I have found our engagement with ACT to be, without hesitation, our most meaningful civic engagement that we have had. And it's so fortunate that we feel so fortunate that we have had that opportunity and continue to work with ACT in different ways. Next, I want to welcome you, our participants in this program. We're so pleased that you are here, and participants come from different associations with ACT. We have here some of our early leaders and founders of ACT, Gene Sterling, Lauren Stack, David Speck, Lyles Carr. Others could not be here, but Lori Morris, John Porter, of course, to name a few. And there were many others that really launched ACT and got it started to where it is today. Also, I want to thank our current and former board members that are participating, our other supporters of ACT who have helped us along the way, donor advised funds and others. Welcome our nonprofit community and of course our civic leaders, Mayor Wilson. We really appreciate you being here. I just want to say that we regard you as part of ACT's family. You make ACT's work possible. Through you, ACT is improving the lives of Alexandrians every day. That's our mission every day. And that's fact, that's not hyperbole. It really is fulfillment. ACT is fulfilling its mission, and we depend upon you for that support and welcome your participation. ACT is its supporters. ACT is you, and through you, we do our work. Next, we're going to do the first of our polls. We're interested in your relationship to ACT and how you became affiliated with ACT. So I'm going to turn it over to the ACT team to conduct that poll. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, David, for sharing your story about ACT. Good morning, everybody. My name is Heather Peeler, and I'm the president and CEO of ACT. And hopefully all of you see on the screen a poll and an opportunity for you to indicate how you've been connected with ACT and what your role has been as a part of the ACT family. So it looks like folks are still responding, and most of you are donors. Thank you so much for your support. As well as donor advised fund holders. So we appreciate the opportunity to be partners with you in your charitable giving. And then as David mentioned, we have many board members and current board members and former board members here with us. So just delighted that all of you are here. And this morning, as Tricia mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about our accomplishments and where we plan to go as an organization in the months ahead. So as David mentioned, many of you on the call have been with ACT from the beginning. You were part of the kitchen table, brainstorming, folks who came together when the idea for a community foundation dedicated to the community of Alexandria, the city of Alexandria, was first established. And I hope you feel proud of what the institution that ACT has become. And this year, I am particularly proud of our team, our board, our network of donors, nonprofits, and community partners, how we have all risen to the challenges presented by COVID-19. And I'll speak to some of these accomplishments in a little bit more detail in just a minute. But first, I wanted to provide a little bit more context about our journey as an organization, because I know many of you are newer members of the ACT family. So let me share my screen here. So what you see on the screen is a timeline. And some of the themes that I think will jump out to you is that ACT has, from its very beginning, been a mobilizer in the community. We've been an incubator of new ideas. We've been investing in leaders and the dynamic nonprofit professionals that are here in our community. And we've been forming new collaborations and innovative partnerships. Our mission is to turn ideas into action and resources into results. And whether it's establishing or launching the Center for Alexandria's Children, to being one of the first communities in the country to host an online giving day, or partnering with the city and other community organizations on early care and education, ACT has always been a catalyst, a convener, and a collaborator. And so it's no wonder then when you think about the challenges that our community has faced in recent months, that ACT was in the position to be a go-to resource for our community. When the pandemic was first taking root, we were able to move quickly in partnership with the City of Alexandria and our other community partners. And it's, I think, really impressive to note that since March, through these various initiatives, we've mobilized more than $3 million in support for Alexandria's nonprofit organizations. One of the first things we did this spring was to accelerate the timeline for Spring to Action. Originally, it was scheduled for the end of April, April 29th, and hearing from nonprofit organizations concerns about how the pandemic was wreaking havoc on their financials, we moved the Spring to Action up 2 weeks to April 15th. And despite the pandemic, it was a record-breaking event. In partnership with the nonprofits, sponsors, ambassadors, donors, and the business fundraisers, we raised $2.45 million. That's $300,000 more than what we raised in 2019. We also partnered quickly with the City of Alexandria to launch the Act Now COVID-19 Response Fund. With a $200,000 investment from the city, a $200,000 grant from Amazon, dozens of donations from our donor advised fund holders, support from local foundations, and contributions from more than 2,000 individuals, we raised $1 million in 3 months and have distributed more than $900,000 to 80 organizations that are providing critical services to Alexandrians. We are continuing our work with the Act Now Fund. We've paused grant making for the last month, but are now working with the city and other partners to consider ways that we can support our community in preventing evictions and helping to stabilize housing for many families who are struggling right now. We also took the spring as an opportunity to revamp our racial equity capacity building initiative. This was an effort that we launched last year in partnership and with the input of our community partners to raise awareness about and understanding about how inequity impacts our community and to identify steps that we can take to create a more racially just Alexandria. In May, we shifted to this program from, it was originally planned to be a robust series of in-person workshops. We shifted to offering virtual monthly workshops. And I'm excited to say that through August, they are all sold out. And Brandy and our colleagues at Service Never Sleeps, our partner on the workshops, are working to design a new series of programming that we'll be able to offer to the community this fall. And in light of the leadership that we've shown around racial equity, when the murder of George Floyd sparked community protests, many people in our community turned to ACT as a collaborator and facilitator. And so we co-hosted a virtual town hall in early June, right on the heels of the death of George Floyd. And then most recently, we hosted a community town hall on policing, which has been informative for City Council. And also I heard from Chief Brown that it was also very informative as they're thinking about various policing reforms. And that's not it. We've done more this year. Other key accomplishments include working with a group of donors to quickly stand up a fund that provided emergency financial assistance to city employees that were experiencing financial hardship. This fund raised over $50,000 and supported close to 200 individuals who are those frontline employees providing critical services, helping the city run effectively day to day but due to the pandemic, we're experiencing financial hardship. We also just 2 weeks ago partnered with the City of Alexandria to launch the ALX Cares Grocery Gift Card Program. And this is a program that will provide thousands of Alexandrians, in particular those who have not been able to take advantage of Federal CARES Act stimulus programs, people who have fallen through the cracks, so to speak. We'll provide them with up to $400 a month with grocery gift cards that they can use to buy food and other household supplies. And then throughout all of this, we've been diligently supporting participation in the 2020 census. So continuing to work with the city and our nonprofit partners to encourage participation in the census, because we know it is a critical source of long-term funding for our community and an important act of civic participation. So these are just some of the ways in which ACT has supported our community this spring. And I think it's really exciting to see the breadth of the roles that we have played. And so we want to pause now and actually launch another poll. And we'd like to hear from you. So Molly, if you can launch the poll, tell us what are the ways and what's the one word that you would use to describe the role that ACT has played in our community? And I will say we will be using this to inform our marketing and our outreach as we try to share the story of ACT's impact in our community. I see a number of responses coming through. Catalyst, amplifier, collaborator. Okay, it looks like folks have had a chance to submit their responses. Thank you so much for letting us know how the roles that ACT is playing and how you think we are making a difference in Alexandria. So we would not be able to do any of this without all of you, as David mentioned, and we really appreciate each of you as our stakeholders being along on the journey with us. And all the data and information that I just shared, I think pales in comparison to the firsthand stories from our partners that we've been working with. And that's why this morning I am delighted that we are able to have Lynn Thomas from Community Lodgings. She's the executive director. She's been there leading the organization for 6 years. But I'm excited to have Lynn share a little bit about her perspective about how ACT is making a difference. I also want to note that Lynn is the chair of the Partnership to Prevent and End Homelessness in the City of Alexandria and has a good bird's eye view on the needs of our community. So welcome, Lynn. If you can turn on your video so we can all see you. Great. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about Community Lodgings and how ACT has supported your work and what that has meant to the community members that you serve.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me come on. I'm delighted to be able to talk about ACT and the partnership that ACT has shared with Community Lodgings as well as the greater community. And many of you may know, but I'll just give a 1 second spill. Community Lodgings has been serving the Alexandria community for over 32 years. Our programs are multi-generational. So we take families from homelessness to self-sufficiency. We work with kids, we work with adults, our primary focus now is in the Alexandria community. And we've been working with ACT since the beginning. We, as Heather mentioned, this year, we participated in the Spring to Action, but this year we had a phenomenal Spring to Action. It came at a great time, and that was all, I think, in part due to the support that we received on the back end from ACT in helping to make our Spring to Action a success. We raised over $50,000 for our Spring to Action, which in the past our average has been about 30. So we almost doubled our amount that we raised through our Spring to Action. We were excited to participate in the census program, where we decided that we would, through the grant from Act for Alexandria, we offered anyone in the community who completed the census a $50 gift card. So we were able to have 40 community members complete the census, which, as you know, a census worker knocking on someone's door probably can't get 40 people to complete it. So we were able to get 40 families to complete the census, and we're still working to, people are in need. So we actually have had others come to us and say, are you still doing that program? Can I complete it to get a $50 gift card? So we're still helping families to complete the census, which is a much needed resource in the community. We've also received funding from the Act Now funds, which allowed us to, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were able to secure some PPE, some cleaning supplies for some families. So we were able to provide PPEs and cleaning supplies to families. Our zip code 22305 was considered a hot spot during the pandemic. So we had several families in our community test positive for COVID-19. And so we were able to provide them with some PPE, some cleaning supplies, and make sure we got them connected with the necessary resources. The fund also provided weekly breakfast to kids. So we were able to provide pancake breakfast in partnership with Al Steakhouse, and that way we were able to provide food to food insecure families, as well as give a lift to a local business by supporting the business. So we were able to provide food to, like I said, breakfast to the kids weekly, as well as the Act for Now fund helped us to provide food to families and to help some families provide rental assistance. We're the most recent program that we're working with is the ALX Cares grocery store program, which we're excited about. That program will allow us to serve 100 families with grocery store gift cards each month. During the first month launch, we were able to identify 89 families who qualified for $29,400 in grocery store gift cards. And so that's all in part to ACT and the City of Alexandria to provide this much needed resource to families who are food insecure, who have been impacted by COVID through a loss of income or reduction of income. And so that $400 per month per family, $200 for a family of two, will definitely come in handy to those families. ACT has enabled community lodgings to grow in the community. We've received capacity building grants, and those grants allowed us to just measure the long-term effectiveness of our program and the work that we do, and just to be able to allow us to sustain our programs. So we definitely appreciate the support that we receive from ACT for Alexandria, and a lot of the things we do, we could not have done it without ACT for Alexandria. So I just want to say thank you to ACT for Alexandria for being a good partner to Community Lodgings.
Thank you, Lynn, for sharing how longtime support from ACT has empowered community lodgings to achieve their mission to lift families out of homelessness and instability to self-sufficiency. And thank you for representing the 150 plus local nonprofits that ACT supports. And now we're going to hear about a different kind of partnership, ACT's strategic partnership with the city. And here to speak to that is Mayor Justin Wilson. Mayor Wilson has been serving as Alexandria's mayor since November of 2018. And prior to his election, he served 8 years on the city council, including in the role of vice mayor. Mayor Wilson, thank you for joining us.
All right, I'm trying to start my video here and it's not letting me. So it's saying the host will not let me. So hopefully someone starts my video for me. or you'll all be spared having to see me this morning either way.
Okay, hold.
There we are. Now it's back. All right, good deal. Thank you very much. It is an honor to participate in this session, and especially follow David, Lynn, and Heather, some amazing leaders in our nonprofit community. I want to talk to you about some of the very same things, but I'm just going to do it about half as well as Heather and Lynn did. Let me talk to you about really the essential nature that I believe ACT plays in our community. You know, we have an incredibly diverse and significant nonprofit community that serves just a variety of needs. You can find a nonprofit organization in the city that addresses almost any need that we find in our community. However, you know, one of the challenges, one of the gaps has always been that coordinating function, that orchestration. And, you know, I found it during the time that ACT has been around, ACT acts as that backbone, that convener, that glue. You know, for those of you who are my age or a little bit older, you might remember those commercials back in the 80s and 90s for the German chemical company BASF, and they had a slogan. I don't even think they use it anymore, but they had a slogan. They said, you know, we don't make a lot of the products we buy. We make a lot of the products you buy better. And you know, I think that kind of sums up the role that ACT performs in Alexandria. You know, they help make our nonprofit community, the partnership between government and philanthropy and our residents work better. And I think that is all the more essential role, particularly in a moment of scarce resources where the need in our community has been just accentuated in to a point that is quite dramatic right now. You know, obviously, I don't need to tell all of you that the challenges we're facing in Alexandria right now. Just like everyone around the world, we have been hit very, very hard by COVID, but in many ways, Alexandria has taken a real body blow. You know, we have in our business community, we have traditionally relied on a significant portion of our revenues from consumption in the city, from our hospitality industry, restaurants, retailers, and hotels, and those have been dramatically hit, if not brought down to zero in a lot of cases. We have populations in our city that have been some of the hardest hit that we've seen. Lynn talked a little bit about the population she serves and Community Lodging serves, and like she mentioned, they have been one of the communities we've seen bear the brunt of COVID-19. And a lot of that accentuates and shines a light on the fact that we have had systemic inequities in health and wealth attainment and educational attainment and a variety of other measures for generations in our community. And COVID has shined a light on that and forced us to confront some of those very same things. What COVID has done is demonstrated the fact that we have large portions of our population that are under the best of circumstances living on the margins, close to being in a situation where they're experiencing food insecurity, close to being in a situation where they're experiencing housing insecurity. What ACT has done in this situation is been able to have the capacity to quickly mobilize and address the challenge. It's an essential tool that we've had in our toolbox during this period of time. And it's because they've built the infrastructure through investment from a lot of the folks who are on this session, as well as work that folks will do in the future. ACT has been able to construct and maintain an infrastructure that probably shouldn't fall on government, but regardless is something that is essential to have in a community. And they've been able to put that in place very, very quickly and put it to work for our residents in partnership with government and other nonprofits during this time. And that's really the work that ACT's done throughout its history. I think Heather mentioned some of the the greatest hits, the Center for Alexandria's Children, the annual Spring to Action, which is has become a really seminal moment for the city every year, and one that everyone looks forward to. And I think was one that this year was even more important as we moved it forward to address the significant need that we were dealing with in our community. You know, I've been particularly excited to watch the work that ACT has done in supporting the early care and education work group in the city, and being the convener for that effort, which is now morphing into Smart Beginnings Alexandria. And then, you know, you talk about being in the right place at the right time. I think the racial equity work that ACT has been doing made them really the default partner for the city and the community to turn to during this year, when these issues have come back to fore rightly, and the city is working to try to continue progress that we know is so far overdue. So, you know, I have been privileged during my time in elected office to partner with ACT on a number of different initiatives, and I feel like the role that they perform is one that that while every community doesn't have, every community needs to have. And so I appreciate all of you being a part of this. For those who supported ACT and helped put that infrastructure in place in the past, we thank you for that. Just know that it's been very, very essential for our community, both during COVID and prior. But for those who may be supportive in the future, just know that your investment of time, your investment of treasure, is going to pay dividends for our community. And so thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to participate this morning, and thanks for the work that you will and have done for our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. And we are just so fortunate to have such a strong partnership with the City of Alexandria. When I talk to my peers around the region and other parts of the country about the relationship we have with local government, they are all envious. So we just really thank you for the, I think the strong, trusting, collaborative relationship that we have with the city. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So I just wanted to share or put an exclamation point on some of the data that Mayor Wilson shared about how our community is faring right now in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, Alexandria is, I think, in some respects recognized as being a very prosperous community, and it is in many ways. However, that prosperity is not evenly distributed throughout our community. And in fact, Venture Philanthropy Partners, their Capital Kids report that came out earlier this year noted that in 2017, 25% of children in Alexandria were living in poverty. And if you compare that to 3% in Arlington and 10% in Fairfax, I think that gives you a sense for kind of the scale of the work that our nonprofit partners and our government partners need to do in terms of addressing needs in our community. And unfortunately, the COVID health crisis has exacerbated disparities, both from a health perspective as well as from an economic perspective. And as we all know, people who were already on the financial edge, working, you know, in the gig economy and in the service sector, they were struggling before, and now I think are facing pretty dire circumstances. A recent report from the Kaiser Family Foundation noted that 44% of parents of color are worried that their children will not have enough to eat if schools are not in operation, compared to just 9% of white parents. And the Urban Institute Household Pulse Survey reported that 60 to 70% of African Americans and Latinos in Virginia have no or slight confidence that they can pay their rent in the next month. So these basic human needs are definitely at the forefront of our work and our concerns at ACT as we come to work every day. And while our community has stepped up in an incredible way, and I think a very powerful way, we still have a lot of work that we need to do. And we continue to hear from our colleagues around the community about concerns, not just about basic needs, but about the need for childcare, the need to address a potential growing education gap, the needs for job training and employment opportunities, the need to stabilize the arts community, also while there's I think a drumbeat for community action around police reform and other social justice issues. And so the need for a strong community foundation in Alexandria has never been greater. And we have, the good news is we have many assets that we can build upon. We have an amazing, talented staff. We have a dedicated, active board. We have very generous and informed donors, and we have extremely capable partners. So that's all the good news, I think, all the good ingredients into kind of building that strong foundation. I just wanted to share a little bit of information about where ACT is internally. And we've been on a journey, I would say, in terms of our own financial sustainability as an organization. And frankly, over the past few years, we've had some ups and downs. And we're not yet, I think, at a point where we can confidently say that it will be kind of smooth going, so to speak, from a financial standpoint. And I know that's a situation that many nonprofit organizations and businesses are in right now. And certainly 2021 will bring, I think, even more uncertainty as the pandemic continues to play out. In 2019, we recognized that we needed to make a pretty significant investment in our internal capacity if we wanted to kind of have that strong future for our organization. So we partnered with our board and raised a little over $100,000 to invest in that internal infrastructure that Mayor Wilson referenced earlier. So we took that investment of $100,000 and essentially revamped our development operations, created a new development strategy. We also took a closer look at our financial management operations, trying to modernize those, make those in better alignment with the current reality of our operations. And we hired a new CFO to help us. We also added capacity from a programmatic standpoint and a marketing standpoint. And I think all of these investments gave us the foundation and the wherewithal for us to respond nimbly, to act quickly and responsively in light of the pandemic this year. And so as we've been thinking about kind of our current context and where we go from here, I've been doing quite a bit of research and reading about the role of community foundations during a crisis. And most recently, I've been inspired by the thought leadership of Trabian Shorters, who's a social entrepreneur. He's founded an organization called Be Me. And he's noted that in times of crisis, there are typically two kinds of actors, what he calls fixers and builders. Fixers act fast to get things to a place of stability and to kind of get things back to some sort of semblance of normalcy. Builders, on the other hand, see the crisis as an opportunity to create something new and to take that crisis and envision a new potential, a new future. And what Trabian says is that both are needed. And I definitely agree with that. And so our team at ACT, we've been inspired by that. We've been thinking about how we can both serve as fixers and builders in our community in Alexandria. And so over the past few months, we have been in what I would call that fixer mode, problem solving, pumping as much resources as we can into our nonprofit partners who are on the front line of the pandemic, responding to those basic needs around food, shelter, healthcare, saying yes when the city calls us and asks if we can partner with them to quickly get out grocery gift cards to community members. But we know that the impacts of COVID, both from a health and economic perspective, are going to be with us for the long term. And so we also, at the same time, need to think about how we can innovate for a better future. How do we use this moment to work with our partners to leapfrog or disrupt old systems and create a better new normal for Alexandria? And I would say a new normal that is built with equity at the center. And so we've been taking a very experimental approach to our work over the past few months. And I think that will continue. So if you ask me, what does it look like? What does it mean for ACT to be a builder? I'd say I'm not quite sure. We're still working that out, but we have a few hunches and things that we're working towards. And so as we think about the months and the year ahead, there are a few key priorities that we have identified. First, we will continue to play that role of strengthening the nonprofit communities and our community writ large in Alexandria. By continuing to focus on the Act Now Fund, we've crafted a racial equity statement that will guide the work of the Act Now Fund in the future, focusing both on addressing the emergency needs. And as I mentioned earlier, the looming eviction crisis is something that we are working on right now, as well as thinking about how we can address some of the longer term needs of our community around economic opportunity and poverty. In addition, we are collaborating with donors right now on launching two new funds, one focused specifically on racial equity and another that will address the arts community and the need to stabilize the arts in Alexandria. And we'll continue to partner with the city on the grocery gift card program and I think other emerging initiatives that come up in response to the pandemic. We will certainly continue to convene the community around issues related to systemic racism through the partnership at the Shared Voices Town Hall, as well as the Impact Forum. So this November, we will, in a virtual format, provide or host the annual convening of nonprofits and civic leaders that we've been doing for many years. And we have Brandy's working right now with a team that's involved in the planning, and we're excited about some of the ideas and different speakers that we can bring to our community. And we'll continue to mobilize and inform the community about issues related to racial equity. Again, I think we all understand how the pandemic has exacerbated the inequities in our community. And so as we work to building that new normal, we have to understand why and how some Alexandrians are more deeply impacted than others, and specific kinds of steps that we can take to alleviate and address those inequities. But in order to do all of this, we also need to continue to invest in ourselves. So the marketing and outreach needs to continue. We need to do a better job at telling our story and bringing new people in to the ACT family. Our financial management, we need to continue to modernize and update our financial management systems so that they're as adaptive and as flexible as our programming is. And we need to continue to work on our fundraising so that we can grow the Act Now Fund and these other funds to provide that sustained source of support for nonprofits in our community. And that's why today we've set a goal of raising $250,000 for ACT's operations over the next 2 years. This investment in our capacity is an investment in order for us to be the fixers and the builders, and will provide a source of stability for ACT so that we can do all these things and more. To be even more responsive to the needs of our community, to say yes when the city or other partners come to us and with new ideas, to be able to say yes to our nonprofit partners when they have ideas about how they can better serve our community. So judging by the way that 2020 has unfolded, I don't think any of us can predict what's ahead, but I know, one thing I know is that ACT will be here and that we will be in a place to continue to be a strong resource for our community. And so I invite you to continue to be a part of the journey with us, and I look forward to speaking with each of you about the role that you can play as we move into the future. So we have time for a few questions, and I invite anyone who has a question to enter it into the Q&A or to enter a question into the comment box. And let's see, Leanne or Brandy, do we have any questions so far? Or David, if you're talking, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, my video, as with the mayor, is being blocked. And as the mayor said, I can spare you the video, but I'll leave that to the staff to decide. But I do remind you that I am the board chair. Well, okay, all right, let me try it now. There we go. Okay. Yes, as Heather said, we've got some time now for questions and answers, so please feel free to submit those. And it's my opportunity though to thank all of our participants in this program today. I hope you found it informational and meaningful to you. I especially want to thank our speakers, Lynn Thomas, just for the amazing work that you do at Community Lodgings day in and day out. But then when a crisis hits, you step up even more. And I'm so proud that ACT has been able to be a partner with you, and we're going to be there with you and supporting you all along the way, to help the folks in our city who are in need. Also, thank you to Mayor Wilson and the city of Alexandria. As Heather said, you have been great partners. I think we work together so well, and it is unique for a community foundation to have this close working relationship with the city. So thank you very much, and we look forward to continuing that partnership. I want to thank Heather and her tremendous staff for the work they did to make this program possible and to put it into play today. To Heather, Tricia, Brandy, Sally, Leanne, Molly, and Sophia. You also day in and day out are doing wonderful work. And thank you to our participants who joined us today. I follow up on Heather's comments. I mean, this is an invitation to all of you to continue your support with ACT, or perhaps for some folks to really become involved for the first time in ACT's work. You've heard from Heather and from the mayor and Lynn a synopsis of the work that ACT has done in the city since 2004. We're, I think, bold and effective in long-term projects, early care and education programs, racial equity. I want to say on that, germinated from community meetings that we held 2 summers ago. We didn't just jump on this in the last 6 months. This was something that was inspired by the community, and ACT picked up on that. We have had these very effective initiatives, but also, I think you got this from the mayor as well, I think ACT is at its best in a time of crisis. The COVID-19 fund that was started, this happened within a matter of days. The city, it was great administrative staff, was in contact with Heather, and within days we got this going and raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in a short period of time, and got it out the door to the nonprofits and people in need. We don't convene meetings and staff and said, okay, we'll have to develop a plan for this. We got it done in days, and that's not the first time that we've done that. So you are ACT's family. We need you, and we encourage you to remain involved. And as I said before, without you, we cannot fulfill our mission. But with you, we are every day improving the lives of Alexandrians. So please join us. You can do nothing more fulfilling in your life than to work with an organization like this. So thank you very much for your time. And we've got some questions popping up. And so I will turn it back to Heather and her team.
Great. Thank you so much, David. And there was just one quick question. Somebody wanted to know, Richard Bell wanted to know how many folks were participating on the program this morning. We had 51 people participating. So just really appreciative of all the members of the ACT family who were here this morning, spend a little part of their day with us, learning a bit more. Let's see, there's also a question, does Community Lodgings need any material donations right now in terms of clothing, furniture, and bikes, etc.? So Lynn, I don't know if you're still with us, but if you can answer that question and we can get that out to the participants. And then just quickly, oh, Lynn, if you're talking, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. At this time, we're not accepting donations. We just received a donation of 20 bikes for our kids in our summer program from Velocity Bikes. We don't have the storage space right now to accept donations, but we do send out information to the families, and if they need something specifically, as if a bed or something like that, then we do solicit for that donation.
Great. Thank you so much, Lynn. And of course, if folks want to also support community lodgings, you can do so directly with a financial contribution. And so just wanted to, as we wrap up today, just wanted to also just share a few other ways that you can get involved. So our Act Now Tuesday Talk series is continuing this summer. And the next one is on August 18th, and we'll be hearing from the faith community about how they have mobilized to respond to the community's needs during the pandemic. And then also I invite everybody to save the date. September 23rd is our fall fundraiser. So we have a few I'd say special twists planned for this virtual celebration and recognition. And I hope you all can join us, and you can sign up to participate on our website. And then finally, again, just so much appreciation for all you have done to support ACT in the years since our founding and today. We really appreciate it. We could not do this work without you. If you have any questions about anything that we presented, I'm curious if any of you agree or what you think of the fixer versus builder kind of metaphor and whether or not that resonates with you, or perhaps you have ideas for how we could work together to assist the Arts Fund or the Racial Equity Fund and that sort of thing. So please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Tricia. And then certainly if you'd like to get more involved in a variety of different ways, we would love to talk to you about that. So with that, let's see, unless there are any other, let's see, any other questions? One, how does ACT plan to use new funds for core support? Are there new capacities that we want to build? Yes, so we definitely plan to continue to focus on developing our fundraising capacity. We also need to work on our marketing capacity in terms of building our muscles around storytelling and engaging more people in our work. Also, we want to think about how we can I'd say build some staffing capacity in terms of our ability to flex as we respond to different opportunities. So one example of that is with the grocery store gift card program with the City of Alexandria, we have had to hire a data consultant to work with us on some of the data management that's part of that program. And so as we respond to different initiatives and different needs, we will need different expertise to work with us and assist us. And so having that flexibility to engage experts as needed is one of the capacities that we would like to invest in. So great question, and would love to talk more about how we would deploy the capacity investments. So thank you, everybody. Again, and we can stay on the line if there are any other questions, but I know folks need to get to their days or get on to start their days. And again, just reach out to me or Tricia if you have any questions or want to discuss more how you can get involved. Okay, well, with that, and I don't see any other questions in the chat. Thank you again for spending time with us this morning. Thank you again for all that you do for ACT and for all that you do for the City of Alexandria. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.